Hallå, hallå.
Hej.
Hjärtligt välkomna allihopa. Och vad ska man säga? Det här ska bli en superspännande kväll. Mitt namn är Emma Andersson och jag jobbar som chefredaktör på tidningen Allt om Whisky. Och idag ska jag tillsammans med Håkan här, som är bredvid, grundare för Vi som älskar whisky, ha en liten trevlig stund och snacka lite om den irländska whiskyn Bushmills och lite om deras nyhet och träffa en av deras kollegor som jobbar med det. Ja, alltså det här har ju varit superspännande. Håkan, ja, det är väl så här vi träffas nu för tiden, online.
Ja, precis. Det är ju det nya normala. Så här ser det ut. Och som sagt, det här är ju, jag tror att det kommer bli en kanonkväll att kunna liksom online få snacka lite med Bushmill.
Ja, och jag tänker så här att det är väl lite läge att berätta för oss om vem det är som vi ska plocka med oss och ha med på sändningen.
Ja, såklart. Det är ju som sagt, det är ju en kvinna som är brand ambassador för Bushmill, så att det blir ju kanon.
Men du
ja, kör.
Ja, alltså Bushmills, det här är ett av de mest kända destillerierna på Irland. Det slog mig, har du varit och rest någonting på Irland överhuvudtaget?
Tyvärr inte. Som sagt, jag var i Skottland väldigt många gånger, men Irland har jag missat. Men som sagt, när den här pandemigrejen är över så det står ju högt på listan, så är det ju.
Alltså jag har varit några gånger på Irland i jobb faktiskt. Senaste gången var på just Bushmills och Old Bushmills Distillery, och det var ju en häftig upplevelse måste jag säga faktiskt. Så att, det är värt att åka dit. Det kanske får bli nästa pitstop för oss om vi reser tillsammans. Det händer ju ändå ibland, så vi kanske får plocka upp den tråden.
Ja, såklart. Det är man ju
Vad
alltid
säger
med
du?
på. Liksom.
Ja, men eller hur? Vad säger du? Är det lite läge och
det tror jag. Jag tycker att vi kan.
huvud...
Jag tycker att det är dags att presentera henne helt enkelt. Och då kan vi ju gå över till engelska såklart. And welcome Lauren McMullan, brand ambassador for Irish Whisky Bushmill. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're super excited to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here as well, and hopefully in the next 30 minutes or so I'll be able to bring a little bit of the distillery to life for you.
Yeah, well, looking forward to that.
Me too, absolutely.
Yeah, so Lauren, can you tell a little bit of yourself for the Swedish consumers who doesn't know who you are, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Lauren, of course, and I am the brand ambassador for Ireland for Bushmills Irish Whisky. So it's kind of a little bit of a strange story as to how I got started in the whisky industry. Maybe not the usual path that some people might take into the industry. So when I started university, I studied languages. So I studied French and Spanish at university. In Belfast, so just about an hour away from where I was born and raised on the North Coast. And I remember in the summer of 2014, I noticed that the distillery were looking for language speakers, because obviously it's a very, very popular kind of tourist destination. And they want, we get a lot of international visitors, so they wanted someone who could speak languages. So I applied. I got the job and I fell in love completely just with the distillery, with the product, with the people, the history, the legacy of Bushmills. And almost 7 years later, I'm still here. So I've been working for Bushmills for 7 years now. 5. So I worked there for 5 years, and my main role there was to conduct the guided tours around the distillery. So that was the main part of my role, and I also did some whiskey tasting as well. So And then in March 2019, so almost 2 years ago, I became the brand ambassador for Ireland. So what a terrible job. Getting to talk about a beautiful whiskey.
Yeah, but you're just the role, brand ambassador. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing, and have you visited Sweden, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. So not yet, unfortunately, but I mean, anytime you want me, I'll definitely come over and do a whiskey tasting. Yeah, so as Bushmills brand ambassador, the main part of my role and one of the most important parts of my role is education. So mainly bartender education. So I would go around some of our key accounts in Ireland, our key bars, and basically try to bring a 400-year history of the distillery alive in the bar to the bartenders. So that would be kind of the main part of my role. Obviously, since COVID, so that would be pre-COVID times, you'd be able to go into the bars. Since last year, we've kind of adapted to doing online trainings and online tastings. And another great part of my role is hosting our live series. We have a series called Black Bush Stories, where we try to collaborate with individuals in Ireland who have a really unique kind of craft, and say a craft that we can kind of draw parallels between their craft and our craft of whiskey production. So I would host events like that as well. And definitely it's such an incredible role to kind of spread the history of Bushmills around Ireland.
Wow. I mean, what a job. I think that this must be a dream job for a lot of people, especially, us that are big whiskey enthusiasts out there. But I mean, of course, even for you, it must be, you must find ways to kind of keep yourself inspired. And how do you do that, along the way? I mean, especially during the last year, I don't know how your job has been different, but how do you keep yourself inspired,
I think one of the main things, there's a lot of things that keep me inspired with especially working with such an incredible brand like Bushmills. One of them is the fact that, albeit a very small part, I am a part of the brand's kind of over 400-year history. So it's really nice to kind of be a part of that, even for a period of time. I mean, we've such an incredible legacy at Bushmills, which has been passed through generations, and to even play a little part in kind of educating people and spreading awareness of the brand is just incredible to think about that. And I think even just the people as well that you get to meet along the way, it's such a lovely industry to work in, and you meet people, such like-minded people who love whiskey, and that's why we're all here at the end of the day as well. And I think each tasting, each training I do, if I can open up a new Bushmills whiskey to someone, that makes me happy. That's what inspires me to keep going. And yeah, you mentioned about my role changing last year. It really did. Basically, everything we had planned had to move online. So how we kind of adapted was holding little kind of mini cocktail competitions on Instagram. We would really try to engage with our bartenders here in Ireland on Instagram and encourage them to submit, a beautiful cocktail that had been made with Bushmills, and they can win prizes for that. And even our kind of little, as I said, our Black Bush Story series last year, just in November past, we collaborated with someone in Cork who made hot sauce. And we made a Black Bush barrel-aged hot sauce, and we did an online event using the hot sauce to make cocktails. Ooh. So yeah, so loads of different things, but really you have to kind of adapt in your current climate. As long as we can keep talking about Bushmills, that's absolutely fine.
I mean, you have worked for quite some time with the brand, and both, at the distillery, taking care of people, and now as well, but in a different role. I mean, there seems to be a whiskey for every taste at the Bushmills and within the brand, but I'm not sure that everyone really understands the different kinds of whiskey you actually do. Can you tell us a bit about what kind of whiskey you actually make?
Absolutely. So you've hit the nail on the head, Emma, when you said there's a whiskey for everyone. There absolutely is. And that's the beauty of whiskey, is that someone will find something different from each whiskey that they taste and that they try. And some people might prefer a 5-year-old whiskey. Some people might prefer a 21-year-old whiskey, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone's palate is different. So absolutely, Bushmills, as you know, we've been distilling whiskey on the north coast of Ireland for over 400 years. So we're situated in the little village of Bushmills itself. And as I said, we've been there for over 400 years. So it's a huge legacy that we have. Now, Bushmills, something that we have kind of established ourselves as, and something that we're really kind of known and respected for, is being a single malt distillery. So on site at the distillery, the spirit we make is produced 100% from Irish malted barley. We always have been that way, and we always will be. Now, we do also have a few blended whiskies in our portfolio. Perfect examples of those would be the Bushmills Original and Black Bush, two of our very, very much loved whiskies. So we do have blended whiskies in there. So for our blended whiskies, we would blend our malt spirit, our triple distilled single malt spirit, with a lighter Irish grain spirit. So it would normally be produced from corn. It's a little bit more spicy and a little bit more oily. But because our malt spirit is so floral and so delicate, they blend perfectly together. So we do have the blends there, but as I said, we are first and foremost a single malt distillery, absolutely. And we're actually one of the very few distilleries in Ireland that is a grain to glass distillery. So every single stage of production is carried out under one roof, essentially, on the same site. So we start with our barley and we finish by bottling and dispatching the whiskey from the same site. So it's great that we can be able to do that as well.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, what is a perfect balanced whiskey for you? When you, I mean, of course, you, like everyone else, this is a hard question, but when it comes to well-balanced whiskey, what is that for you?
That's like asking to pick your favorite child, isn't it?
I know.
It's like, what's your favorite whiskey?
I have no, but how do you want it to be? I mean, for you.
Yeah,
you don't have
for me personally,
not like that.
I think what I always look for, and what we at Bushmills in general always look for, is casks which perfectly complement our malt spirit. So as I've already mentioned, our spirit that we have is triple distilled single malt spirit, and that's what we often refer to as the Bushmills DNA. So that is the crux, that's the heart and body of Bushmills, and it is just a beautiful, delicate, really fruity, floral spirit. Yep, that's our still house right there. That's where it's all produced, our beautiful copper pot stills. So yeah, we're always looking for casks which don't take anything away from that spirit, but they just add to it and complement it beautifully. So that's what's most important for us. For me personally, the whiskey, I will pick out a few Bushmills whiskies. The one I reach for most would be Black Bush, mainly for so many reasons. Black Bush is such a unique blended whiskey. It's very, very hard to find another blended whiskey like Black Bush out there, mainly due to its high malt content. It contains over 80% malt, which is really high for a blend. Black Bush is so versatile. You know, if you feel like having a whiskey neat, perfect for that. It's really nutty, very, very fruity, but it also works really, really well in the likes of an old fashioned. And so if you're maybe having a few drinks with friends and you want like an easy sipping cocktail, it works perfectly in that as well. So I guess it all depends on what mood I'm in.
Yeah.
If I was to, if it was a special occasion, the 16-year-old Bushmills or 3-wood whiskey, it's so perfectly well rounded. It's matured in 3 different casks. So it's got a perfect balance of bourbon, sherry, and port casks in there, and that would be a real special occasion. I would pick that one up.
Saving it up for a good occasion. Yeah,
definitely not
like that. But I mean, you've worked for quite some time at the distillery, and what does the distillery mean to you? I mean, for you that has been there for such a long time.
Yeah. It really, the best way I can describe that is it is home to me. The distillery, I've been born and raised on the north coast of Ireland, which is the home of Bushmills. It is a 20-minute drive from my house. So so close to me. You can almost smell the fermentation some days if you try really hard. The beautiful yeast smell. So it really is just home to me, and it's so special to be part of a brand that is so well respected in the industry. And really a brand that I've kind of grown up with as well. When I started in the distillery, I was only 19. I'm now 26. So, you know, almost 7 years later, I'm still part of that brand. So it kind of has been, it's kind of grown up with me, if that makes sense as well, you know, especially as we're about to talk about the new releases and things like that as well. So it's so special. And I think we always have a lovely saying at Bushmills: we're not the best because we're the oldest because we're the best. And I think that kind of sums it up really nicely.
Well said.
Yeah. But Lauren, I think in your opinion, what is it that makes Bushmills so special? The whiskey, of course.
I think for me personally, and especially if anyone has had the opportunity to visit, which hopefully we will in the very near future again, I think it's the people. I always say without the people, there's no brand, and that couldn't be more true at the distillery, especially, and at Bushmills in general. The craft of our whiskey production has passed down through generations, passed through giants. We're walking in the footsteps of those giants that have really laid the foundations of the distillery and of the brand. So we have so many important people at the distillery. I mean, Helen McMullan, who is our master blender, who we'll speak a little bit about later on as well. She's been with us at the distillery for almost 30 years now. So she's our master blender. And she was actually Ireland's first female master blender as well. So, you know, this is her, the Causeway Collection is kind of like her baby. It's her labor of love. And we also have Chris and Alistair Kane, who are our coopers. We have 2 coopers on site with over 300,000 casks to look after. So, you know, the passion and the love for Bushmills, it really is never ending. And I think that's what's so special about the brand. It's the community behind it, definitely.
You just mentioned actually the series that we are going to talk a bit about, and that's the Causeway Collection, which is a series from Bushmills. It has been around for some time. Can you tell us a bit about the series before we go into the new launch for Sweden? But
absolutely.
Just in general, what's the name from? What does it come from? The name, for example.
Absolutely. So the Causeway Collection is, as you said, Emma, it's a limited edition series of rare, unique cask strength whiskies, released, of course, from Bushmills, all single malt whiskies. Really, the Causeway Collection has been inspired really by the home of Bushmills on the north coast of Ireland. So we are about 2 miles. It's literally about less than a 5-minute drive away from a really, really famous world attraction, the Giant's Causeway. Beautiful formation of basalt columns, basalt stones right beside the sea. So really it's been inspired by the Giant's Causeway, by our home and our landscape. And we kind of take inspiration from our home, our landscape as well. And of course, they have been curated, as I mentioned, by Helen McMullan herself. So the Causeway Collection, some of the older expressions within the collection, some of them are 28, 30 years old. That would have been one of the first whiskies that Helen actually laid down when she started working at the distillery. So yeah, it's incredible. So when I say it really is a labor of love for her. It really is. So this is like letting her kids off into the world after looking after them for so many years. Right. So it really is. And I think what's so important about the Causeway Collection as well is any tasting, any training I do, the number one question is, when will Bushmills release a cask strength whiskey? It really is. It's been so highly anticipated. Really got people so excited, because I feel like they think that Bushmills has really come home. It's really come into itself. I mean, Bushmills has the highest stock of single malt whiskey in Ireland, and we have the highest number of aged casks in Ireland as well. So people knew we were capable of it. So we finally given back. So it is really, really special. And Yeah, it's it's a series, so it's not just a one-off. It's not kind of just a drop in the ocean. It will be something that we will build on and develop on as the years come on. So yeah, It's great. We have a launch in Sweden as well.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about that, because there is actually going to be a launch next week on the 26th of January. And it's 2011 from this Causeway Collection. And you call it, don't know how you say it, but Bushmills.
Bushmills, yes, yeah, absolutely. That's it.
I need a dram to say that. I'm not sure. But
or two, yeah.
It's very, very difficult. But that's how it's supposed to be, I guess. You need to drink some whiskey before you even pronounce the name at the bottom.
Absolutely.
But tell us about that bottling, because you can see it here, 2011. What kind of cask is used?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the beautiful photo there of the bottle, and I think it'll be really nice to actually explain a little bit about the bottle as well. So obviously we've stuck with the traditional Bushmills colours. You can see the beautiful gold and black colours there, but there's just that little hexagonal logo, the emblem there in the kind of the front and center of the bottle. So that reflects the Giant's Causeway and the Causeway Collection. So the Giant's Causeway, as we mentioned, is made up of those beautiful basalt columns that are six-sided. So that's kind of a little hint to the Giant's Causeway, and a little hint obviously to the Causeway Collection as well. And then at the very bottom, you can also see Helen's name. So Helen Mulholland, the signature of our master blender, of course, she has created this beautiful collection of whiskies. And that's actually the first time Helen's name has been on any of our whiskies. And also the first time a woman's name apparently has ever been on a bottle of whiskey. So it's pretty incredible. So it's special for so many reasons. So as you said, Emma, it's a Bushmills cask. Bushmills is it's a sort of a sweet fortified dessert wine, and it's produced in the Languedoc region of France. So it's made from the Grenache Gris grape, and as I said, it's kind of that sweet dessert wine. So absolutely, as you said, this is the casks that we have aged the whiskey in. So it is non-chill filtered, as we know. It is cask strength, so it's sitting at bottled at 53.2%. So this whiskey would have been distilled on the 1st of March 2001. And then Helen matured this whiskey for 6 years in our ex-bourbon and ex-Oloroso sherry casks. And then in December 2017, it was finished off in the Bushmills cask for just under 3 years. So normally a finish that we talk about would be 6 months. But you can see for this whiskey, we've let it rest in that cask for almost 3 years. So it's a really long finish. You almost couldn't even call it a finish. It really is a maturation in that cask. So it's a beautiful 3-wood whiskey. So you're really going to pull something different from each of those casks from this whiskey when you taste it. And as I mentioned earlier, we're always experimenting with different casks, different cask finishings to see what works really well with that Bushmills DNA. But the beautiful thing is that Bushmills DNA still pulls right through the center of that glass. So that beautiful kind of honeyed malt, the vanilla, it's always going to be present in that glass. So it's an absolutely beautiful whiskey. And it's great. Yeah, it's beautiful. Even the color. I think you have a bottle, Emma, don't you? You've got the bottle there with you.
I do. Sorry.
I also have it in a glass too.
But I don't.
we have to see each other soon, Håkan. With
of course.
Away. I'll save some for you. But I mean the color is amazing, and I mean it's so deep and I'm telling you, on the nose, it's just amazing.
With smell-o-vision, we'll try and have smell-o-vision here and see if we can.
Yeah. How about that? Everyone will just disappear now and block us forever. Yeah, that's how
the color. As you say, the color is just incredible. It's such a rich. It's almost like an antique gold color. We can see it there. I've got my beautiful little Bushmills nosing glass. And it's just a beautiful. antique gold color. It reminds me of the color of our copper pot stills, like that real beautiful copper color. And the nose, I mean, wow. Today was actually the first time I tried this as well, so I was blown away earlier when so I'm trying it with you as well. It's beautiful. I mean, what I love about whiskey as well is that it's so personal to each individual. Everyone's going to pick up something different from a whiskey, so you absolutely can't be wrong. And another thing about the cask strength whiskey and what makes people kind of love it so much and love Bushmills cask strength whiskies is because you have the opportunity to try the whiskey as is out of that cask. And if you want to, you can mold this whiskey into exactly what you want it to be. So if you would prefer to add a few drops of water to kind of bring the alcohol volume down a little bit, you can absolutely do that, no problem. Which is the beauty of cask strength. But the smell, I don't know what you found from it, Emma. I kind of got like, it's almost like wild honey, like, and beautiful, like real like peaches, apricots, like stone fruits almost.
And together with that, I find some like red fruits in the background as well, which is amazing. And then I have tasted it a bit as well before the
I also did. You know, you have to. You've got to.
It just keeps on giving, and I love because there's a bit of a tannin feel to it also from the casks that I can't really put my finger on. But I mean, this is something I would just sit in the sofa and just relax and dream away and dream about my next trip to Ireland, I guess.
Absolutely. The smell, if you kind of close your eyes and you smell the whiskey, you might as well be in a warehouse on site.
Next time we just need to come over and see you guys at the distillery, of course.
Please do. Absolutely. Please do.
Maybe for the viewers, I would just like to tell you guys, because this is, as we said, a limited edition that arrives in Sweden next week on the 26th. And it's going to cost 999 crowns, and it's a very limited edition with just a few, not that many bottles. I don't remember how many at this time, but we can maybe write that down later on.
1,500 in Sweden.
You're the best. You're the best. If there's anyone that is listening today and would like to write some questions or anything, this is the time to do that, and we'll see if our guy behind the scenes can pop up some questions for us to answer, if that works. I'm not sure if anyone has been. Can you see that too, Lauren?
I can, So what's next in terms of news or direction? Any upcoming bottling? Thank you for your question, first of all. Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, what's so special about the Causeway Collection is that it's not just a once-off, it's not a drop in the ocean. It is something that we will definitely continue working on in the next year and the next few years as well. I can't tell you anything specifically. We're very secretive at Bushmills about what we're doing. We're always, just know that we're always experimenting. As I said earlier, we have well over 300,000 casks on site, have whiskey maturing away up there. So always experimenting, always seeing what we can innovate and what works. So absolutely, there will certainly be more coming down the line. Absolutely. Even keep an eye out in Ireland. I mean, the Irish whiskey auctions are fantastic to pick up bottles from other markets as well. There's a lot of people have been doing that with the Causeway releases. So definitely keep your eyes peeled.
But with that said, or nothing said at the same time, as a lot of said, I'm thinking about could we expect that this Causeway collection will continue for a bit? Is that the plan anyway, even though we don't know what's going to be launched?
Absolutely, I would say if you kind of keep an eye on maybe sort of the second quarter of the year, I would say you'll definitely be expecting a few beautiful things from Bushmills, and Yeah, I know. Can never give it away. No amount of whiskey will ever make me tell any Bushmills secret.
Well, that's enough for me. Then I know.
Yeah.
Then I know what to wait for.
No, definitely. As I said, Helen, obviously our master blender, she's always working away and lifting samples and seeing what casks we like and what works with our, as we said, our Bushmills DNA. So certainly this is a collection.
Yeah.
So this is just the beginning of it. So we started releasing whiskies in October and it's only January. So definitely there's a lot more to come. There's a lot more.
Wow. Okay. We'll see if we have any more questions for right now anyway. We will see. If not right now, we will just kind of wrap this up. And I hope that, people have become a bit curious.
I hope so.
If they have any, if they have any, I don't know what to say.
Questions.
When it comes, sorry?
Thoughts or questions.
Yeah, if they have any more questions, they're more than welcome to contact us, of course, after this and send us questions via email or whatever. But
Absolutely.
we are looking forward to see you soon, and hopefully it will be in Sweden or maybe at the distillery at some point.
Or you guys can obviously come to Ireland. I'll be more than happy to show you around the distillery and show you around our beautiful little part of the world.
I think we have to do that, right? Yeah. Håkan, you haven't been, so you just have to go. It's
perfect.
One of the.
Oh, another question.
Oh, right.
We have a question. Will there be any changes in the core range in the near future? That's actually probably, have you read my mind? Have you seen something that's happening? There actually are, within the core range, believe it or not, there is an expression. I'll not say too much, but there is an expression of the original whiskey that will be released in the coming weeks, not the coming months, in the coming weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Now, I'm almost certain it is Ireland, but as I said, through the Irish whiskey auctions and some of our really popular sort of Irish whiskey shops and wholesalers like Celtic Whisky, for example, it's really easy to get your hands on a bottle. So keep your eyes peeled. Definitely read my mind or read my emails or something like that.
Oh, thank you, Jonas, for that question.
Yes, thank you for your question.
Will the other variants be available at the distillery? Oh, yeah.
So it's that's actually a difficult question to answer because like a lot of places, the distillery is following our government guidelines here in Ireland with regards to social distancing and, sort of lockdown and things like that as well. So the distillery currently isn't open to public. We're not entirely sure when that is going to be. It's something that we're reviewing every single week, obviously just to keep in line with government guidelines and their advice as well. So we don't know right at this moment what will happen with the other variants at the distillery. It is something definitely I'll be able to answer probably a little bit clearer in a few months' time, I would say, is the easiest answer to that. Yeah, just like everyone else, we've been affected too. So.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that as soon as this will lift the full corona and everything, I think that a lot of Swedish people will pick the first flight to Ireland and see the distillery. And if you have not been, it's a great distillery to visit.
Please do.
I mean, there is so much history, and at the same time, it's very modern in many ways, and the visitor center is great. So I don't know.
It's quite funny you say that because, as you say, you've got the really kind of old feel, the real steeping in history, but then you also have the more modern aspect of things like our new distillery that we're building as well, which kind of reflects the demand for Bushmills and for Irish whiskey in general. So you've kind of got them like juxtaposed against each other, the old and the new, but that's what it's all about really. But yes, please, if any of yourselves or anyone else comes over, just give me a message and I'd love to see someone for a whiskey.
Big thanks to you, Lauren, and I hope that we will see you very, very soon.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me, and skål, sláinte.
Skål. Skål!
Skål, thank you so much!
Yes.
Håkan, vad säger du? Det här var ett trevligt tillfälle att slå oss till ros här i veckan.
Exakt. Det här var ju jättetrevligt. Jag hoppas verkligen att alla ni som har tittat tycker att det var intressant att lära känna Lauren och Bushmill. Förhoppningsvis kommer det fler sådana här. Vi får se.
Ja, definitivt. Det finns stor risk för det, tänker jag. Vi säger hej då till allihopa och skål, och så avslutar vi med ett trevligt litet 1 minuters klipp till er där hemma och en liten, vad ska man säga, en liten smygtitt på smarrigt innehåll. Ha det bra. Tack snälla. Hej då.
Hej.
From the world's oldest licensed whiskey distillery. Limited edition, rare, cask-finished single malts. Inspired by the Giant's Causeway. The Causeway Collection. A bold new step for the giants of Irish single malt, where uncommon casks enjoy unprecedented finishing, bringing untold waves of flavour. The Causeway Collection, forged in the footsteps of giants.